Welcome to the Daily Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life. Because sometimes that's all it takes, a small shift in what we choose to believe to make the day a little better, make us a little more awake, a little more alive, and ascending. So each weekday, we're going to climb together. We're going to rise above the noise, find the flow, and get grounded in what really matters. So you can live your day with more meaning, connection, and ease. Today, I want to talk about something that is such a hard thing in my life and also one of these spiritual concepts that has actually become the most freeing part of my own journey. Like literally, I mean, top five, probably top three. And this spiritual concept is owning my part, not someone else's part, which I can do really amazingly, let people know how they're doing and what they should be doing differently, not the whole world's part, which I also can do very well, in case you're wondering, just owning my part in something. And I was really reminded this week that the second I stop owning my part, I start losing my freedom. So here's the story. Since I wrote a book in 2020 called Breaking Up with Sugar, and ever since then, I've had this delicious little private Facebook group. And in 2020, especially in the COVID of it all, oh my gosh, this group was so fun. It was lush, it was vibrant, it was full of life, it was people connecting, it was such a support to each other. And let me say, I was right in it. I was in that flow. I just loved it. I was in multiple times a day. It was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. I loved it. And then, like, it's 2025. What happened? I mean, life happened, right? My attention went elsewhere. And in the midst of all of this, I asked a member of the group to step in and help moderate the group. And we had a little deal going where she could get free services, like the free services in my program. And it was great. It was a great little deal that we made. And she was a rock star in this group, and it was wonderful. And I was still in every now and then, but I knew she was taking care of it. It was absolutely wonderful. And slowly but surely, I really stopped paying attention to this thing at all. And I was doing some reflecting on, well, why did I really close my eyes and stop being involved in this group? I'm still working on it. I'll let you know. But I don't know, something like, did I get resentful about something in the group? Or maybe that I was putting so much time in? Did I get overwhelmed? Probably. I always have 15,000 things going on. Did I get bored? Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I don't even know. But what I do know is that I completely checked out of this group. And here's the thing, there's a very significant difference between delegating and checking out when you own something. And there's a really big difference between collaborating and handing something over to somebody. And what I can see, which I'll obviously get to in all of this, is I definitely wasn't delegating. I definitely wasn't collaborating. I really expected this person to do their part and my part without any oversight and basically just like, not checking in with her, not seeing how she was doing, just kind of crossed my fingers and like hoped for the best. And honestly, that's not fair at all. At all. And it's funny because my mom, who's in the group, would say to me things like, Molly, you really need to go in and see this post. This person's really struggling. You should respond to this comment. And I just like brush it off, right? I told myself, oh, like this person will take care of it. She'll take care of it. And I didn't like check. I just really just gave my responsibility away. And here's the kicker. Almost a year went by. And I realized that part of the job was that she would send me email addresses. And I realized, oh, like, probably 6 months had gone by and she hadn't sent me any of the email addresses of the group members, which means that they weren't getting this Sunday love letter that I write every Sunday, and they weren't getting an opportunity to be involved in the things that I also do outside of that Facebook group. almost a year, like almost half a year. It's just like a lot of time. So I emailed this woman and she had a whole story. Her computer crashed and she didn't have time. And honestly, it was very venomous what she was writing me. There was a lot of drama in her life and she just didn't have time to deal with me. And, my first reaction was just like, namaste rage. Like, oh, okay, like I'll match your rage with my rage. How could she have done this to me? Like, oh, like what is like I gave her this and this is not the deal. And I mean, I was a spinning victim. I was an unhinged victim. I was angry and I was enraged. And then, honestly, very quickly, and I just want to say, like, this has been a part of my life that I have been working on for years and years and years and years. And so I want to remind you when we're talking about ascending spiritually, it is not a one and done deal. What I can tell you, I mean, truly, I came back to myself on this in probably, I don't know, probably half a day. Like I was enraged for not less time than that. But I'm telling you that in the beginning of working on this, I would have been enraged and in a victim space and in a how could she do this to me for probably a week, if not longer. So when we're talking about ascending, we don't just go up the mountain, up, 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 up. We go up, we go down, we struggle in a spot. Like this is what it is to live a spiritual life. It's not a one and done, right? So it hit me pretty quickly, but the only reason it hit me pretty quickly is that this is taking my part in something and not becoming a victim of my circumstances is something I've been working on for the better part of 15 years. So it really hit me, thank goodness, that she had done nothing to me, right? And actually, I was really the problem in all of this because I had given up my part. I had stopped participating. I had stopped managing her. I had stopped checking in. The minute I didn't see the email addresses, it was my job to figure that out, right? I just stopped checking. I'd given up. And frankly, she was doing this job because she loved my work and she loved my group. And a lot of it was about being in relationship with me. And I hit the road and didn't tell her. And she had every right to be that mad at me, honestly. And so the repair was not hers to make. It was mine to make. It was mine to make to her, and it was mine to make to the group. Let me make that very clear. And I got to tell you, even as I tell you this story, I feel so relieved because, when I'm the cause of the problem, then I can solve the problem. And there's something really nice about that to me. I spent so many years of my life feeling a victim to my circumstances and feeling completely powerless, like everything was happening to me. And when I started to learn I have a part in it, and the part is usually pretty enormous. It's very relieving to me, and I hope that we can work through that today on our podcast. So listen to this. Right in the middle of all of this, I go to a reading. I go to this reader called A Day at a Time. And here's the passage, and it's a 12-step reader. So listen to this with an open mind, set aside everything you think you know about the 12 steps and try to listen to the core message of this, right? In recovery, I learn that the very thing that I fear is my freedom. It comes from my tendency to recoil from taking responsibility for anything. I deny, I ignore, I blame, I avoid. Then one day I look, I admit, I accept. The freedom, the healing, and the recovery I experience is in the looking, admitting, and accepting. I learned to say, yes, I am responsible. When I can speak those words with honesty and sincerity, then I am free. One more time for those of you in the back. In recovery, I learn that the very thing I fear is my freedom. It comes from my tendency to recoil from taking responsibility for anything. I deny, I ignore, I blame, I avoid. Then one day, I look, I admit, I accept. The freedom, the healing, and the recovery I experience is in the looking, admitting, and accepting. I learned to say, yes, I am responsible. When I can speak those words with honesty and sincerity, then I am free. I read that with my mouth gaped open because I really saw it wasn't about her and it wasn't about the group. It was about me. The freedom I was craving wasn't in blaming or in outsourcing or like, in being hot to trot about missing email addresses for a love letter. It was really about owning my part. And here's the truth. Like, so much of us think that responsibility is a heavy burden, right? It's like carrying a backpack full of rocks. But really, it's the opposite. It's the act of putting the backpack down. It helps me to think of it as like, as I said before, like owning my part. When I own my part, I'm free. When I don't, I am sick. I'm sick with blame. I'm sick with avoidance. I'm sick with expectation. And by the way, expectation, that's already happened, right? I'm sick with like this rage of expectation that somebody didn't do something the way that I thought that they should. And when I'm owning my part, it doesn't necessarily mean that I own everything. It doesn't mean that I'm taking on someone else's work or someone else's behavior. It just means that I'm cleaning up my side of the street and taking action where I can. And every time I do, I feel lighter. And that's what this reading reminded me of, right? The very thing that I'm afraid of, which is taking ownership of something that I've done wrong or not ideal or even to hurt somebody. And I do believe that this hurt this woman in some way. That's the thing that gives me freedom. And I want to tell you that I wrote her such, I hope, in my experience, that well, it really came from the heart. So that's really all that matters. I wrote her this note of, thanking her so much for what she had given this community for years and supported me and supported the community and supported everybody. I offered her a path to not do this work anymore. She took it. And I was just like eternally grateful for her. And then I started to participate in my Facebook group again because I'm a working dog. I'm a dog that needs a job. And either I shut down this Facebook group or I go and participate in it. And I don't want to shut it down. So guess what that means? There's infinite energy, when we're doing it the right way. And so getting back into that groove is kind of beautiful. Let me tell you, that community is small. It's smaller than it's ever been, but of course it is, because its leader's been deciding to do other things. And I have the right to do other things. I have the right to change my mind. I have the right to change my whole platform, but I have to let the people know. I can't just disappear. I would freak out if somebody did that. So today's word is responsible. And I'm not using responsibility, the word responsible, in this punishing, shame-based way. I'm almost never doing that unless I'm not in my wise mind. I'm saying it in this very liberating way. This liberating way that says, when I own my part, I am free. When I can say, yes, I'm responsible. This is my part. This is what I did. This is what I can clean up, right? This is where I was wrong. That's the farthest thing from beating myself up. I'm stepping into honesty. I'm stepping into truth, and I'm honestly stepping into action. And that's what sets me free. So, my darling ascenders, thank you for climbing with me today. Remember this word today we're taking with us, responsible, not as a weapon, not to hurt you and not to hurt others, but as a key. And I'm going to practice saying that phrase. Yes, I am responsible, right? It's my doorway to freedom. And I'd love for you to try it too, just once today. Instead of blaming somebody else or avoiding, just pause and look at where your responsibility lies in this. See what shifts. And I will see you tomorrow for another step upward. Bye.